Hey guys, Alessio, hope you're well. So we've seen a drop in the price of Bitcoin, quite an interesting drop as a matter of fact recently, and we're going to take a look at this chart of the crypto and examine what potentially is happening here on Bitcoin. Some people are speculating that perhaps Bitcoin could be falling into a downtrend or a bear market, but are they right? So let's talk about it. All right guys, join me. Alright guys, welcome back. Making this video for you from the beautiful town of Torquay in the south of England. Alright guys, before we start talking about Bitcoin, by the way guys, let me just quickly mention my good friend and trader Charlie Burton and I are doing an online educational course on trading and technical analysis. The link to get the early bird discount on the course is now available for you here. So just go to the link, it's in the description as well, and I'll tell you more about it at the end of the video. Alright guys, as we saw, Bitcoin had a pretty sharp drop to the psychological support at the 100k level. So as we know, 100k is an important round number, and that's the level which Bitcoin dropped down to. As a matter of fact, it went slightly below that level, but it also managed to bounce and recover. As I'm making this video, Bitcoin is above the 100k level. By the way, this drop to 100k was something we anticipated was going to happen. And the reason is, recently, my good friend and trader Manuel Bly, the DowTheory.com, he mentioned in his newsletter that Bitcoin had triggered a Dow theory bearish signal. By the way, that is not the same thing as a bear market. It's not the same thing at all. All it meant was that risk to the downside had slightly increased. And so in the members video recently, I mentioned that we could potentially see a drop down towards 100k, that key support level. Here's a clip. Because of the Dow theory bearish signal, at the moment there is an increasing or elevated risk of more downside potential. So at the moment here, there is potential still for the C wave to extend lower for the reasons just mentioned, based on the Dow theory model. And as mentioned, as long as Bitcoin remains below this blue line, this level of resistance, for now, pressure remains to the downside, and a further break of this recent low here could mean a drop down to this support region here, between 102k to about 100k to 98,500 for the extension of that C wave. All right guys, now you're probably thinking, does the drop to 100k or just below it, does it change matters? Does it change the trend on Bitcoin? Personally, I don't think so. As a matter of fact, I think 100k or that trend line support you see there on the chart of Bitcoin is going to be a very important support level for Bitcoin. Now we'll see if Bitcoin will respect that level or not. So to answer this question, what I'm going to do is go on the weekly chart of Bitcoin. As you probably know, I consider the weekly charts to be extremely important when it comes to understanding trend and also key support levels. So very briefly, and just keeping this video short and sweet, if you go on the weekly chart of Bitcoin, you will see that Bitcoin has now fallen below the 21 weekly moving average. So I consider the 21 weekly moving average to be an important support level because often it's a dividing line between uptrend and downtrend. However, even though at the moment Bitcoin is below its weekly 21 EMA, as you see there, the blue line on the chart, this does not by itself mean that Bitcoin has now fallen into a downtrend and that we're now in a bear market. No, it does not mean that. By the way, something I don't usually say in these videos, but I should, which is if you get value from these videos and you enjoy them, please click the like button and subscribe, and also click the notification icon so you're notified of our next video. So if you look at some previous examples of when Bitcoin has fallen below its 21 weekly moving average, you know, in the past, during strong uptrends, it has managed to recover and get back above a 21 weekly moving average, usually after a week or two. So in other words, in the past, during strong uptrends or bull markets, Bitcoin has managed to pull back towards the 21 weekly moving average, sometimes falling below it, but then eventually quickly recovering and going back above it. There are some exceptions. In the year 2022, that's not what happened. In that year, when Bitcoin dropped below its 21 weekly moving average, it actually signified the start of a bear market. It pretty much continued to trend to the downside, move to the downside. That year we saw Bitcoin fall from about 60,000, 50,000, eventually down towards 20,000. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What we have to remember is this, that the stock market has not fallen into a bear market either. The stock market still remains at the moment in an uptrend, as you see there. Now, of course, the stock market could have a correction, but the point is this, Bitcoin has as yet not fallen into a downtrend. Sure, it's fallen below its 21 weekly moving average, which is a warning sign, but that by itself is by no means a sign that Bitcoin has fallen into a downtrend or a bear market. It does not mean that. What we need to wait for now is the next bounce on the price of Bitcoin. The next bounce on the price of Bitcoin is going to be extremely important. If the price of Bitcoin can bounce or rally impulsively in an impulsive structure, like you see there, and provided Bitcoin can get above its 21 weekly moving average, which you see there on the chart, that blue line, that would be a good sign, a positive sign for Bitcoin. That could be a sign that potentially could recover and likely make new highs. And by the way, I should say this, that is actually what I still expect on the price of Bitcoin. Even though we've had this nice correction, this drop down, I'm still going to remain positive and optimistic on the price of Bitcoin for at least to the end of the year and going into next year. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of the data still supports Bitcoin going higher, at least by the end of this year. Don't get me wrong here, I'm not expecting Bitcoin to reach new highs immediately. I don't think it's going to happen in November, but it could happen by the end of the year, by the end of December. I think we could see a move to much higher levels in the next several months, if not in the short term. One thing we have to remember is the seasonality. Seasonality often turns bullish for Bitcoin, especially in the period from November to December. The big picture is that both Bitcoin and the stock market at the moment are still in uptrends. So I'm still seeing this drop in the price of Bitcoin as part of a large correction, as a likely ABC correction. And I think this recent drop was part of the C wave of that ABC correction. So guys, in a nutshell, let's wait and see what the next bounce, the next rally on the price of Bitcoin is going to be, especially on the lower time frames, like the daily chart or the hourly charts. If that bounce, if that rally is impulsive, and provided we can move above the 21 weekly moving average, that would be a positive sign, be a good sign for Bitcoin. That could potentially mean we might rally to new highs by the end of the year or next year. However, if the next bounce or rally is corrective, if it's overlapping or it's composed of three waves, or if it doesn't look at all impulsive, and especially if Bitcoin gets rejected or does not move above the 21 weekly moving average, if it fails to go above the weekly 21 moving average, then that would be a negative sign. That might potentially be a sign of increasing downside risk if the next bounce fails to go above that key resistance. So let's wait and see what happens. Again, personally, I'm still remaining cautiously optimistic. By the way, I should say that so far it's too early to call on the recent rally we've seen, the bounce we've seen. So at the moment, I cannot make a decision on the recent bounce we've just seen. The structure does not seem very clear, so I want to see more data. I want to see what we get in the next several days and weeks. All right, guys, before I finish this video, let me just quickly mention that don't forget to take advantage of the early bird discount on the online educational course that I'm doing with my good friend and trader, Charlie Burton. Now, Charlie Burton has had 28 years of experience as a professional trader, and he's going to bring that experience to this particular course that we're doing together. And for the first time, we're doing an online educational course on technical analysis and trading. So we're going to be covering subjects such as what exactly is working in technical analysis today and going into 2026, how to analyze the charts from the point of view of time analysis, multiple time frames, powerful momentum moves, and so on and so on. By the way, the full details are on that webpage, on that link you see right there. That's Pro Trading Workshop. To get the early bird discount, you need to act now because it's only for a limited time. So go to that link, it's in the description, and we look forward to seeing you guys at the online course. All right, guys, thank you very much indeed for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next video update. Cheers, bye now.